We are live, X-Culture webinar series. Today we have a very, very special guest. As you know, we have about a dozen companies that work with us this semester and many more that have worked with us over these years. But this one is very different and very special, especially in the X-Culture context. And these are the reasons. One, first and foremost, the company, even though it's now a big international company with lots of literally thousands of clients in the United States, outside the United States, the company started, like literally started, physically started about 20 feet from where I sit. So it was just a few doors down from here. So in this very building, on this very floor, the founder, the guest, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but I was kind of watching it grow and from the inception to today, day by day. Second, I do know the founders personally, and again, they probably forgot their humble beginnings here at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro, so they're now all around the world. One of them works at Johns Hopkins University, the other one is in a university in Virginia, and he will be talking today. They also have some personnel in Canada, so it's a big international company now. But again, there was a time when we all were separated just by a few doors here. So they're my friends, and I really enjoyed not only spending time with them as founders of this company that works with us, but also with people that I know personally. Second, and that's equally important, unlike many other products that X-Culture kind of works with, this particular one has a direct appeal to students and faculty members. The company specializes in education. So their clients are, in effect, students, professors, universities. And so you could have been or potentially will be in the future one of their clients, either by the virtue of taking a course where MobiusSLIP is part of the course, or perhaps one day you will be teaching a course and will decide to use their system, and again, it will be reintroduced again in a few minutes. So this is something that you can potentially use or have used before if you studied at the right school. So unlike many other products that many students have no idea about, so the industries are so distant, so different from what we do, this one, that's precisely our life. So hopefully you will be able to relate, to understand what this product is, but also come up with ideas how it can be improved further, because again, this is part of what you do as part of X-Culture, part of your education or teaching experience. Anyway, today we have Dmitry Babik, as some people pronounce his name, and so he will talk first about the company. The rules are the same as always. He will do the introduction for a few minutes. If you have any questions, please email them to admin@xculture.org, and we already have quite a few questions. After the short introduction, I will start asking asking the questions that you sent to me. I will direct them to the presenter, and we will try to stay within the 45-minute period budget, but if you have more questions, we may go a little longer. If there are fewer questions, we may end sooner. And without any further presentation, here we go.
Hello, again, my name is Dmitry Babik, and I would like to thank Dr. Taras for having me in X-Culture series. I'm currently in James Madison University in Virginia, United States. And basically what I would like to do today is to address three things. I will tell a little bit more about our company, which might be especially interesting to those of you who are working on a project for X-Culture dealing with our company. Then I will spend a few minutes talking about my lessons that I learned about starting up a company and then trying to make it a global company. And in the conclusion, I would like to spend a few minutes about my expectations of what I would like to get from X-Culture, participating in X-Culture and working with the students in X-Culture, so that it will give you a little bit of guidance in terms of how to frame your product, your consulting report. Okay, so welcome again to Social Learning Solutions, the provider of MobiusSLIP. With this, I will change to my slides, and we will talk about our business.
We still see you.
Okay, hold on.
Yes, okay, the slides are on the screen, yes.
Okay, let me see. So you see my screen, my slides now, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So first of all, if you do have any questions you would like to ask me or anybody of us, you can either forward them to Dr. Taras, or you can directly email to us at info@mobiusleap.com. Okay. You will run into two representations of our company. One is Social Learning Solutions, which is the name we are doing business as, and Mobius Leap is the name of the product or educational technology that we are providing to school students and faculty. Okay, so just to reiterate on my agenda for today, I will spend about 10 minutes talking about us as a team, our company, our product. Then I'll spend the next 10 minutes talking about the opportunities and threats of startup going global, which is why or why not to do that. And then I will briefly talk about our expectations in terms of your consultant product that we would like to receive. And then we'll spend the rest of the time remaining for questions and answers. Okay, so as a company, we started in North Carolina at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. The project itself started in 2011. We formally registered the business in 2012. And in a few weeks after that, we actually started commercializing our product. We started selling it. Okay. Although we did begin as a very small two-people team, just a couple of doors away from Vas's office, we are currently a virtual team with people in North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, and British Columbia, Canada. Okay. The three co-founders, Dr. Eric Ford, who is currently at Johns Hopkins, myself at James Madison, and my brother Alexei Babik, who is our architect, developer, and CTO in British Columbia, Canada. We also have two people still in Greensboro, our sales and marketing vice president and our instructional design and support specialist. And we tend to hire and invite students to become our interns in a variety of applications such as social media marketing, user support, data management. There are many opportunities, and we are open to both kind of face-to-face collaboration and online collaboration. So if any of you are interested in working for a startup as an intern, we would definitely be welcoming your applications. Okay, so let me talk about the problem we are trying to address, or what value we are offering to the market. Okay, think about it. There are 15 to 20 million students just in the United States. Okay, these students are taught by about 1.5 million instructors. Okay, so on the face, it looks like 1 to 10 ratio. However, most of you are familiar with how education really looks. Okay, students are cramped in large classrooms. They listen to the lectures, and then the only interactions that they have with the instructors, unless they go to a very elite private school, is basically that students take multiple choice tests because otherwise instructors get overwhelmed by papers and reports. And the multiple choice test is really the most efficient way of testing your learning. However, it's the least effective. So essentially, the multiple choice testing converted education into a manufacturing, production, industrial era conveyor belt. Okay, product that goes off from this conveyor belt, that is you students, oftentimes lack creative problem solving, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. This is one of the biggest issues of education, particularly in North America, but in some other places as well, that students are trained to be test takers as opposed to creative problem solvers and critical thinkers. So this is how we see it, and the problem and the way we are trying to solve it is by introducing new ways of learning through technology. Okay, so the solution we're proposing is Mobius Social Learning Information Platform, or Mobius Leap for short. And it's highlighted it's an online, cloud-based learning management technology. However, it facilitates complex assignments, okay, that enable students to participate in social learning through peer interactions, which enhances creativity and critical thinking. And at the same time, it reduces instructor loads because they don't have to just grade lots of papers or reports or essays. They allow students to be the audience to themselves. And although instructors do participate in this process, they delegate a lot of learning to students themselves, to peer-to-peer interactions. Okay. Now, one of the problems students typically voice is, I'm interacting with peers who are inexperienced or maybe, not very interested in peer learning. How do we make sure that the value we are getting from this interaction, social learning, is actually good. So to address that problem, we created a very sophisticated algorithm that allows us to validate and make sure that the scoring, the grading that comes out of student interactions is reliable. Okay, so one of the big important things in today's learning and learning technology is learning analytics and targeted feedback that we address. Okay, very quickly about what Mobius Leap actually does, so that those of you who write reports about us know what's going on. So basically, we created a peer review process that is very different from traditional peer review process, where students just exchange papers and write their feedback or maybe grade those papers. We created something more interesting. Okay, so the problems that students typically see and that instructors face when they are introducing peer reviews and social learning to their classroom is that students are not motivated to provide value feedback or quality feedback. The second problem is that when it comes to scoring, students tend to either inflate grades substantially or deflate. So they are either too aggressive towards their peers or too lenient. Okay, so in order to remedy these problems, we created a 4-step double loop mutual assessment process. It consists of 3 steps of 3 phases that students complete for every assignment, namely submission, review, and reaction. And out of that comes very rich diagnostic data that students and faculty can use to improve their learning and teaching. Okay, so to make it very, very simple, students turn in their submissions, which are typically essays or papers or report or case analysis or drawings or diagrams or fashion design or pictures, anything that's creative and very difficult to judge objectively, that requires subjective judgment. Okay, then students review each other's work in groups of 4 or 5 peers, and they do it anonymously and they do it online. So there is no face-to-face interaction. It's pretty safe. It's online and it's anonymous. And then what happens is that every student...
Can I interrupt you just for 1 second? Just wanted to make sure that it works technically. So we still see your initial slide, the title slide of the presentation. Is that how it's supposed to be, or you're flipping slides down the presentation?
Absolutely, I was flipping slides down.
So for some reason on the screen, we still see your basically folder, and I wonder if that's, yeah.
Okay, that's not what was intended. So
so I thought so. Yeah, I thought so. So it just seems like.
I apologize, and let me just try to.
So now we see you again. Yeah, because for some reason we saw that first initial image, and so.
And let me just do this this way. Okay, so I apologize, and let me just jump back.
No, perfect.
Because I had some graphic materials that I wanted to present. So again, this is the information about the contracts, and thus I think we can basically re-edit the video possibly later on so that we can have a little better representation. Okay.
Very good. No.
This is the part where I talked about the problem and the current educational system that we think needs improvement. Okay, and that's my representation of the notion of the conveyor belt education. Okay, now that's what we are trying to accomplish by introducing web-based social learning to the classrooms with enhanced creativity, critical thinking on the student side, and reduce instructor workload and analytics on the instructor side. Okay, and this is our know-how, if you will, of 3-step, 4 parts process. So we have submission, review, and reaction. Have I caught up with what was going on? Was?
Yeah, no, everything's fine. Yeah, that's exactly. So we now see
I apologize. I wish I had this back a little earlier.
And we do have a lot of questions, so we will get to those in a few minutes. I see your questions, guys. So let's proceed with the presentation for now.
Okay. So basically what we're trying to accomplish is sort of the invisible hand social norming process through which students kind of help each other learn and learn from each other. So they see good examples and bad examples, and they improve through social learning. This is a very flexible and scalable application. So it can be applied to small classes of 10 to 12 students and large classes where we have hundreds of students, and even massive open online courses where they have perhaps thousands, if not tens of thousands of students. equally well, okay? And this is particularly applicable to the courses that require a lot of creative and critical thinking activities, such as writing and language arts, visual arts, design, humanities, science, engineering, business economics, okay? So learning analytics is a very important part of it, which is the intellectual property we created, okay? Now let me talk a little bit about the markets and niches that we pursue. So as I said, our major potential customer is US universities and colleges, okay? We are also looking for opportunities to expand to other countries and places where education is modern and wants to make this next leap to more creative and critical thinking kind of assignments. So we're looking for Canadian and European schools, but we are also very open to other ideas and opportunities, okay? Our second niche is MOOCs, okay? You've heard of Coursera, Udacity, and edX. They are offering courses to very broad, huge audiences of students all around the world, and they actually do need some way of being able to offer students creative assignments and validating them, because unfortunately right now they just limit their validation to testing, which for the reasons I explained is not a very good idea, okay? And finally, we are also talking to various publishers of educational materials such as Pearson, McGraw-Hill, Wall Street Journal, to offer our tool to educational product that they offer, okay? Our business model, current business model, is very simple. We talk to instructors, okay? Instructors adopt MobiusSLIP as learning material, as course material, and students pay $20 per course per unit. So for every course that students register for that uses MobiusSLIP, they have to pay online or via bookstores a $20 fee, okay? We are also negotiating sub-licensing. So if schools want to use this product for all their students or have their students access this product for different courses, we can offer licensing terms, okay? Our costs of running this business are really the marketing, the biggest share is marketing cost, and then development and support, okay? There are some IP and legal fees that we have to pay, but truly marketing and development are the biggest parts of this. The overhead of this business is very, very minimal for the reasons I will explain a little later, okay? So how do we sell? We have direct sales to instructors, okay? We also work on institutional adoptions, so where administrators make decisions rather than instructors, okay? At some point, we try to rely on social media advertising. It hasn't gone too far because we have very limited resources, but we do hope that in the future, creating the word of mouth among students and faculty will help us sell, okay? We also are instructors and researchers ourselves, so we present at conferences where people who are interested in this kind of learning can learn about MobiusSLIP and try to apply it. Okay, our competition, that's a very interesting question. So there are a number of projects that create products for peer review in schools and social learning products, okay? Most of them are either non-commercial research products, or they kind of were created some while ago. People wrote papers about what they learned, what they created, and then they were phased out. So currently our most serious competition is Perceptive, that started in 2012, about the time we started at the University of Pittsburgh. Calibrated Peer Review, or CPR, is another product that is very old, but for some design reasons or design, I guess, design decisions that they made back then, they have a lot of clients, but it's not a very dynamically growing product. So they have their limitations. They've reached their limitations. Pearson has recently licensed a product that was created in Canada, Peer Scholar, by a group of professors and graduate students at the psychology department. However, we haven't seen that growing fast either. Okay, Eli Review is a recent product at the University of Michigan, also started about the same time as we, but they are mostly focused on writing in academia, whereas we are open to any creative assignments. Okay, and there are a few others, but they have kind of diminished. Their role has diminished over time. Okay, How are we different from our competition? So we have a very simple, robust, and focused business model. Okay, we are inexpensive, so we believe that our pricing is attractive to faculty and students. But basically, what we are trying to capitalize on is on the ability of students to provide reliable learning outcomes that we can trace with learning analytics based on the intellectual property that we developed. Okay, so we were offering a very inexpensive product with lots of power to show how students learn in social environment. Okay, we do leverage very powerful and agile web technologies and cloud computing. So I mentioned a few minutes ago that our overhead is very minimal. We don't have any substantial overhead, such as a server. We use cloud computing services, which is a virtual server. We don't have offices, so we're a virtual team. We operate of our school offices. But at the same time, we offer some unique features that our product can compete with or along with other peer review and social learning solutions. Okay. So what we have accomplished so far, as I said, we launched our company in June 2012. To date, we have about 20,000 plus students and over 100 faculty in over a dozen campuses. And the logos that you see on the screen is not all-inclusive list. We have many more universities. Okay, we're relatively small in sales. So since we started 3 years ago, we've made only under 200,000 in total sales. But we are still trying to get to the point where we have large adoptions and we can dramatically increase their sales. We've been mentioned in the New Media Commons Horizon report in 2003 as peer review and social learning analytics product. Okay. Very quickly about our milestones. This is sort of a tribute to our previous or earlier vision of how the company will develop. However, what really happened is that we planned for substantial fundraising, angels or venture capital to come in about 2014 or 2015. It hasn't happened. We have been working hard on talking to investors. However, it's a very specific type of investors that can possibly be interested in educational technology company. So we're still in the process. We've been bootstrapping, and we have managed to bootstrap for 3 years, which is very promising. But we are looking to get to fundraising and breaking cash even about a year from now. Okay, and if you work with us, if you work on our company's project, please do email us if you need any additional information or if you have any questions. Okay, very quickly, these are our projections. It's very difficult to come up with financial projections when you are kind of discovering new market and discovering new technology. However, it's unavoidable that the company has to understand where it's headed. And basically, our biggest aim at this point is to cover about 5% of addressable market that I mentioned as one of our main niches. Okay, by the year 2017. Okay, now let me shift gears a little bit here, and I will answer any additional questions about us, but let me spend a few minutes talking about startup going global, or what I've learned as a startupper that tries to sell a product that is potentially a global product. Okay, so traditionally startups had been local companies. So if you think about 10, 15 years ago, okay, if you start a company, okay, in a more or less traditional market, you would focus on your local customers. Okay. Now, with the internet and cloud computing in particular, okay, it has become very, very easy to create a company that sells some sort of technology and can become global virtually immediately. Okay. So with the internet and cloud computing, you practically do not need to invest much into any physical assets that you need to produce your product, but you can start selling your product almost immediately to anybody in the world. Okay, and we see this with massive online open courses, where practically companies that are run by several people out of their campus offices with virtual cloud servers can start selling or offering their value to practically anybody in the world. Okay. There are lots of opportunities because of that. So since you can reach your audience globally very, very simply, and you can scale up and down very easily, there are lots of opportunities. However, there are also important considerations. Okay, and these are the points of worry or red flags that whenever you decide, oh, I'm about to start a global company because of all these opportunities, this is what you have to consider. Okay, not all customers in the world have the same purchasing power. Okay, so if you're trying to sell your product, if your business model is direct sales, that is, you have a customer and they pay. Okay, the customers, for example, in North America are very, very different in terms of purchasing power from customers, for example, in Southeast Asia or South America. So do consider how you would like to differentiate your product if you are to sell to those different markets, or how you offer opportunities for those with less purchasing power to get access to your product and still pay you. Okay. Of course, language and localization are very important components. So not everyone speaks English, and you have to be sensitive to the customers who may be potentially very interested in your product, but may not be fluent English speakers or users. So how will you be able to localize your product, and how will it cost you to localize your product? Okay. Logistics is not a major issue anymore, especially if you are in pure technology business. If you deliver your product online, okay, the only prerequisite that your customers need to have is the internet access, computer and the internet access. So that's why software as a service, or SaaS, is a very easy product to develop, create, and sell. Okay, threats. What are the real threats to the international startup? Okay, so regulations. You have to be very, very sensitive to regulations. We are working in the business of educational technology, and educational products inevitably require customers to provide their personal data. Okay, and personal data is stored in the cloud. And what happens if your customer, if you are serving a school in Europe? Okay, well, there are regulations that determine what personal data can and cannot be stored in or outside of the European Union, for example. So this is an example of how regulations really can mess up your business if you're not sensitive and you are not consulting with your lawyers or specialists in regulation. Okay, customer service. Okay, if you're global, how do you assure that you have 24/7, 365 customer service? How can you assure that your customers have constant access? Well, with cloud computing, it's easy to have 100% uptime. However, you have to have a real person who will be able to answer emails when your customers need some questions to be answered. Okay. With going global, you're also facing global competition. So if you are confined to one market or one region, you're just dealing with the competitors who also sell at that region. However, if you are trying to sell globally, immediately you are exposed to competition with other players in some other locations. Intellectual property protection is a very important issue. So intellectual property is difficult to protect even locally. Okay, it's a cumbersome process to apply for a patent, and then the cost of it is substantial. But if you go globally, you face either high cost of trying to protect your intellectual property, or the possible threat that somebody will just replicate your product. And IT products are very, very easy to replicate, especially in places like India, where the intellectual power is high. So it's very easy for people there to replicate what you've created, but it's very hard to protect because of the many issues, including weaknesses of law and corruption. Okay, currency exchange rate volatility. Okay, so I actually heard a lot about this when I was an international business student. I really realized what it is when I started collecting payments from our international companies. And mostly we were dealing with universities in Canada, and Canadian and US dollar exchange rate volatility really becomes visible when you're booking those payments in your accounting books. And of course, the differences in accounting play a role as well. Okay. Now I will shift gears once again and let me spend about 5 minutes talking about X culture and our expectations. So some of you are working on our company as their subject, okay?
But for the listeners, if you kind of were not paying attention closely, now this is the question that you really want to pay attention to. So this is what the company expects from you. So if you want to win the competition, if you want to surprise them, this is what they expect from you, and possibly also this is what they don't. So pay attention.
Okay, so as somebody who expects you to provide a consultant product to me about my company, here's what I would like to see, okay? I know my company, and I kind of know what we are doing now. So you don't really need to retell me that. However, you do need to provide a reasonable description of the background, okay? You cannot just start your report with saying, or we talk about this company, and then you just go into the details. So you do have to provide background, but make it just minimally substantial for any reader to understand what it's about. But you don't need to tell me about where we started and how we are expanding and so forth. So make it short, I guess. The bottom line is, I know that the suggestions in the X culture about providing your report to company executives, I would say it probably shouldn't be longer than 10 pages, okay? And the first page has to be the executive summary, okay? Because nobody, and don't take it personally, but running a startup, as well as running any other company, is a very, very time-consuming experience, okay? So I have just a few minutes a day to dedicate to reading anything that comes my way. And when X culture reports come, I am very, very interested. However, I cannot read 35 pages report if there are 10 of them, for example. So I'm very interested in your ideas, but I would like those ideas to be pitched to me right away. So first page.
If I may add to that, so the expression elevator pitch. So that's the same thing. So in order to win this competition, or in order to be able to sell your idea either to the client or to the professor, you have to understand that they will have dozens, if not hundreds, of those reports in front of them. So professors will have anywhere between 50 to 200 like myself, and we are talking thousands of pages. The clients, again, depending on the company popularity, and MobiusSLIP is very popular, so they will have several dozen reports. Multiply that by 30, 35 pages, we're talking about 500 pages or more. Obviously, they will not be physically not be able to read the whole stuff. So what they'll probably do, they will look at the executive summary, and we'll see if there is anything interesting there. And if there is something interesting there, maybe they will flip the rest of the pages. So you have to be really, really to the point, concise in the executive summary, give enough detail so that that's, if that's the only thing that the client sees, they can see the value in your report. And so try to be very short, because otherwise they will just not get to it. It's just physically impossible once you have so many submissions.
Okay, thank you, Vas. Okay, and the second important thing is that you have to surprise. So when you pitch your project to me in that executive summary, make very, very visible your major intellectual contribution. What is it that you've discovered and that you can really claim as your contribution visible to me, okay? So I would like to be surprised in the first couple of paragraphs and see, oh, yeah, that's very interesting. I really want to see this. And I am really hoping that there is something they can apply to my business, okay? You absolutely do not need to tell me what I already know. You don't need to tell me things like the background of the company that you are proposing, we sell our product. What I'm really interested in, how big is the market? What is the realistic market share I can possibly grab there? And what is the purchasing power of the customers, okay? So you don't need to tell me things like the overall population. I can easily find this myself if I need to, okay? I also would like to see a very practical and very realistic business model for non-US markets. So you are working on the ideas how to sell this product that is currently being sold in the US in other places, okay? Be realistic about where else it can be sold, okay? I don't think that I can sell much of it in sub-Saharan Africa, for example, or China, okay? So let's talk about realistic markets such as Canada, European Union, possibly Australia. Interesting markets are interesting, but we have to be realistic about how are they regulated, what is the purchasing power, what is the intellectual property right law, and so forth. Okay, so I'd rather make small incremental successful expansion to some non-US markets than have to read a very ambitious project that is not very realistic to sell. Okay, also business models may vary. Okay, we've come up with a business model for the US market. However, for a European Union, for example, the business model might be different. So even though it may sound like a not very ambitious market, a new business model, okay, and outlined in very specific details, okay, is something that I'm really looking for. Okay, you have to adequately represent our background. Okay, so I don't want to read much, but your report has to start with what the company's problem, or what problem the company is trying to solve, and how, what is the competition, competitive advantage, and regulations. But please be very, very careful about it. I've read reports where, or which claim that Facebook is our major competitor. Okay, Facebook is not our major competitor. Study carefully, what the product does, what problem it solves, who is real competition. Okay, and because we are a very interesting, intricate niche product, we were selling educational technology to very specific customers, students and instructors. Okay, because of that, we have very, very specific competitors. Okay, so don't claim that, okay, Google Plus or Hangout or Facebook or Twitter are our competitor. Social media is not our competitor, even if social media is used in education. Okay, I think with this, I'm ready to shift to the interview mode, and I will make myself visible once again. And you're welcome to ask any questions.
No, we have a lot of questions, and some of them are repetitive. So I just would like to say, Prachi, Felitas, Elena, Yara, Ahmed. So I see your questions. I will ask them in a slightly different order just to make some sense. But first, one question seems to be most relevant, and probably many people want to ask that. This one comes from Felitas, based on the phone number, area code. It's from Germany. Can you make the slides available to the people who are working on the challenge?
Yes, I can absolutely make those slides available. Plus, okay. You can see them now, right?
Yeah, that's an easy one. Now, second question, and this one is kind of big, and it's combined from several questions. Can you explain one more time how exactly it works from the student perspective? So the student enrolls in the course and learns that Mobius Leap is part of the course. For example, Felitas here again asks, how do students know how to provide good feedback? Do teachers teach them that and then they work with their peers, or do they need to know that themselves, or is it something that is provided to them through MobiusSLIP? So how exactly that interaction works through the student's eyes?
Okay, Bas, you can see me, right? You don't see my screen.
Yes, we see you, yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, so the question is how students interact with Mobius Leap. What do they get from Mobius Leap? What do they get from their instructors? Okay, so Mobius Leap is a course material. Okay, it's a very specific type of course material. It's software that facilitates certain interaction. So these are the keywords. It facilitates interaction. It doesn't replace any interaction in the classroom. Okay, so as a software, we do give the faculty the framework, okay, or the application through which they can convey anything that they want. They can set up and structure their assignments the way they want. They actually feed in their instructional materials to Mobius Leap. Mobius Leap is only providing the workflow and the structure for those assignments. Now, we do work with the instructors to help them structure their assignments better. So it's easier for students to navigate through Mobius Leap assignments. However, things like the prompt that students have to answer, or the guidance on peer reviews, what are good reviews, what is expected, or the rubrics, that is all supplied by the instructor. That's the instructor's intellectual product. And we basically work with them to facilitate that product through Mobius Leap. Well, the core Mobius Leap interaction is double-looped peer review. So students respond to the assignment, they review each other mutually. So for example, if Was and I were students, we would review each other's work, but we don't know who we are. It's all anonymous. And then we evaluate each other's feedback. So I receive feedback from Was, I evaluate it, Was evaluates my feedback. Okay, does this answer the question?
So what you're saying is that I cannot simply say good work and nothing else. What I say, my feedback will be evaluated. So that's part of the class, right? So I have to actually think about it.
The pedagogical purpose is to make students critical thinkers and good reviewers, make them somebody who can contribute to learning process of their peers. Okay, so if you are simply not doing your job, evaluating and providing good feedback, obviously you're gonna not perform very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're right.
All right, another question. Are you offering your services in languages other than English?
Okay, as of this moment, no. Okay, so and for the reasons that we have a huge US market and the Canadian and Australian markets are large as well. So basically there is no need for us to think about localization to non-English speaking places, because we can go and become billionaires just out of English speaking world. But if you think that there are places which will need certain level of localization, we are absolutely open to hearing that.
Now, several people asked about non-student audiences. So for example, corporate training or other forms of training where the clients are not students, but some other types of either employees or audiences. Do you work with those?
Okay, so this is a very good question, actually. I think it has a very, very promising business idea and possibly business model behind it. When we started on this project, we actually did consider other possible applications. So the most obvious application is, of course, education. But for example, academic publishing or corporate training or government training or military training are also possible good applications for this tool. And we definitely want to expand into these markets. Okay. However, as a startup, we had to focus. As a startup, you cannot do everything to everybody. You have to focus on your core competency and your core clients. So if there are opportunities that are easily reachable in corporate training, for example, in other countries where corporate world might be much more open to this kind of tool than educational institutions, we are absolutely interested in this, and we will not be the barrier to entry possibly is not very high if there is a lead. So if we can talk to somebody who is interested in applying this in corporate training, we absolutely will be willing to provide special pricing, special setup, and so forth.
And talking about pricing, there are several questions, like, for example, one from Oliver. So you are charging $20, and on your presentation, you said it's not much or it's inexpensive. And yes, for the United States, it may be inexpensive, but $20 is a huge amount of money, for example, for a client in India or somewhere in an English-speaking country in Africa. Are you flexible about how much you charge if there is a client willing to pay but less?
Okay, well, it's related to the business model. So for us, we're not a charity, right? We have to make profit. So, and part of the cost that we have, that is substantial cost, is support cost. So we are willing to negotiate, volume-based licenses, for example. If there are many students in a particular niche market that can use our product to the benefit, we will consider different pricing strategies, and we will negotiate with them. But again, please understand that the US, Canadian, and other English-speaking places like British Islands and continental Europe, international programs in continental Europe, can provide us with sufficiently large markets to cover without having to reduce our price or having to incur localization costs.
Mm-hmm. Now, if I may, one question from me. So XCulture is more of a, I don't even want to call it a nonprofit or charity, but we're not exactly a business. And so our fee is based more on our cost structure rather than our value. And so we charge per university or per instructor rather than per student. So the logic is that our cost arises from the class, not from the individual student. So when the instructor sends me 200 names or one name, it takes me exactly the same time to enter them in the system and to process them. So in your case, you do it on a per student basis, right? So what is your cost structure? So when you have a new client, be it a professor or a university or a student, where exactly do you spend your time and resources to deliver the service? So where does your cost arise from?
Well, as you may imagine, there's no unit cost, right? We're not a physical product, physical good manufacturing company. So everything we have is an overhead or administrative cost. cost, right? Now, our major items in our cost structure is student faculty support, which again, not every student gets the equal amount of support, but the larger courses.
By support, you mean somebody physically answering the questions and providing guidance. So like we have person time.
Yes. So basically, if you as a student or as an instructor have a question, you need help, you send us an email. We answer that email pretty fast. We've been proud of our customer relationship management and our support desk. We are pretty fast in answering. So we never leave you kind of unattended. We do provide help, but sometimes students are able to figure it out on their own. Sometimes they need help. So not every student gets the equal amount of attention from us, but the larger courses tend to produce larger volume of tech support requests. So we have to cover that. And we also provide training to faculty and staff. So that's also a substantial substantial part of our cost. The physical plant and equipment, so to say, is non-existent. It's a cloud-based solution, but we do have to rent the virtual server. So that's, again, an overhead cost, but to keep the lights on, we have to cover that. Okay.
Another question, you mentioned that you would like to raise some funds. And so there is a question from Yara. If you raise those funds, presumably thousands, tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars, how are you planning to spend that money?
Okay, so our biggest issue so far is that we need staff, we need employees who will kind of speed up our development. So basically, we have more ideas for the development of our product that we can possibly accommodate now because we have very, very small development team. So the first important part of our use of potential funds is hiring additional developers. So we need about one full-time and one part-time persons in our development team to cover things like development, maintenance, graphic design, visualization, and gamification. Okay. The next big part, and probably even larger share, is our sales and marketing team. So we've been lacking activities in social media marketing, in face-to-face interactions with schools where we would like to sell. We would like to establish local sales reps and so forth. So that would be probably accounting for 60% of use of these incoming funds. Okay. Our support team is very, very small. It's okay. It's adequately sized for the current demand. However, if we double our sales in the next semester, obviously we'll have to double our support team. So again, basically staffing, marketing, and sales are our major needs at this point that need to be funded. And again, I said we've been bootstrapping. So basically, most of us are not paid or paid very little to keep this business going, but we've been very fortunate that we have steady sales semester to semester, and they're somewhat growing. So we're able to, we're sure that this is a very potentially interesting and growing technology.
Now, there's a question again from Felika Sakaraka from Germany. How important for you is it to keep the SLIP abbreviation? And I'm not sure what he's asking, but they're considering suggesting but is it important for you to keep that brand name?
How important to keep the brand name?
Yes, the SLIP abbreviation. So I guess
okay.
that's...
And the question is coming from Germany, right? So
and you did German, right?
Mobius was German mathematician, so we played this name a little bit, and I apologize for lacking umlaut. That was intentional. Okay, but anyways, it is important to keep this brand name because we are recognized by this brand name. Okay, so we might consider changing branding for other markets, but in the United States, those who have been our customers, and we have pretty large customers. For example, the University of Ohio is Ohio State University, I apologize, is a very large school that uses us. So we are recognized by this name, and people are asking about this product. The marketing strategy that we pursued was very close to the Red Bull marketing strategy. So we're basically, we try to create an aura of elite product that is spread through the word of mouth as opposed to mass advertising, for example.
Now, a related question talking about advertisement. This one comes from Kumar. He's asking if they were to offer you an advertising strategy, what kind of budget that they can count on, or what kind of budget that they should stay within in order to make it interesting for you?
Okay, I think it's not so much about the size as about the growth pattern. So right now, really our advertising budget is very, very small. We possibly can spend $2,000–3,000 a year, which is absolutely laughable amount if you talk about advertising, right? You can't advertise much. So the advertising strategy has to be very creative, okay? What I mean is that it has to leverage the social media marketing opportunities, word of mouth, and we can do a lot with social media today at very little cost if we are crafty and inventive, okay? However, if this initial advertising pays back, okay, and basically brings us leads and sales, we can dramatically increase our marketing and advertising budget based on return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and there is a question from Marusha. So she's asking, first, how do you advertise? Second, did you try advertising on Facebook? And I'm not sure if you want to add anything else to that. So basically, how do you reach your customers now? Word of mouth, that's good, but I mean, do you approach them directly at some schools, or how do you find the new schools, I guess?
Yeah, basically our sales and marketing strategy as of now is direct contacts. So our marketing team explores catalogs of the universities, right, and finds the courses with large enrollments and the mindset that is very close to what we offer. So any creative courses like writing or arts or humanities, English and so forth are good targets, and then they contact those faculty directly and basically offer a demo, okay? And after the demo, we try to convert them into clients and then see where we go from that. We do have a Facebook page. At some point, we were very assertive in using social media marketing. We kind of have it running, but we don't really have staff at this moment to conduct our social marketing campaign. One possible venue that we are considering, and it's mostly US, but there might be analogous websites in other countries, is ratemyprofessors.com, which is attended by both faculty and students. So students provide feedback to the teaching styles and teaching quality of their faculty, which is exactly what we are trying to accomplish. So we think this is a good place to advertise at. However, the interesting fact is that we tried to contact them several times, they never responded. So their marketing agency.
You mean the ratemyprofessor.com never responded?
Yes, their advertising agent never responded to our request.
I wonder if they may have the model where they just sell the space to Google Ads, for example, and they have no control.
I think they have a.
Yeah, so they may not have no control as to what ads appear on their website. They just sell the space and are paid per click by Google, for example.
Yeah, they have contact information for advertising, and we tried to contact them, but they never responded. So we're kind of still exploring this area, but so far the direct contacts and the word of mouth have been our primary vehicles, which is why actually our sales are somewhat slow at this point.
Here's a question from Sophie. She's asking if you know the majors of the students who participate in your or who use your product. Are those mainly business students or different majors?
No, different majors. Business school is where we started, especially in business writing and economics, but we also have a variety of other majors. We have health informatics, we have religious studies, we have English and language art, we have biology, we have engineering, we have art and design. So practically any major that requires anything of creative nature to be turned in as an assignment is a very good target for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, several people asked about skills and knowledge that you may be interested in interns. You said that you would be open to a possibility of maybe hiring some interns at some point. So what exactly would you expect from them?
Okay, so we have three primary interest areas. So one skill that we definitely need is social media marketing. So if we can form a team of virtual interns, and we are even willing to provide some benefits for people who work successfully with us, okay, we definitely would like to see those work for us, okay. Another area is data management. So we do have a lot of data to manage. Mostly it's highly automated, highly sophisticated, and highly analytical applications. So if you are good with statistics and psychometrics, that's something you can definitely apply your skills at. Okay. One of the growing areas is technical support. So we do have very interesting tech support structure. That might be something very interesting to you guys who work on our project. Because our client consists of, our typical client is an instructor with several dozens of students or several hundreds of students, right? So our clients are not individual people, our clients are courses, okay? And our clients pay sort of different price tag depending on how many students are in the course, but also depending on what kind of course that is. So we have to work with the instructor to help them set up their courses and assignments, but we also work with individual students to help them navigate Mobius Leap and fix their problems, okay? So basically we have two sides of the support desk. One side is the instructor support and another side is student support. And we have a professional course trainer, course designer, who works with the faculty. And what has been shown very, very interesting and beneficial is the best student support people are former students who used Mobius Leap in the past, because nobody else like them understands two things: how it works and what customers want to hear. So instead of having somebody who kind of understands Mobius Leap but never felt it as a student to help students, we actually have students who used it in the past and who respond to students' inquiries and tech support requests. And I think that this is what makes our customer service of high quality. We're very limited in our capacity, but the quality, I believe, is outstanding. And we will never make it a kind of conventional call center outsourced to elsewhere, because we believe this is a very false customer service model. So if nothing else, we make our customers' satisfaction the highest priority.
Okay, fair enough. Now that you mentioned data, and so there is a question from Helena, apparently one of our instructors actually. She's asking if you're using the data that you collect for research purposes. Do you do any research, and do you need to get the IRB approval to use those data for research? Okay, very good question. So we do use it for research, and I wrote my dissertation on the topic that I actually explored using Mobius Leap. We have other faculty who actually are interested in researching based on the questions that they have about their courses and the data they collect from their courses. And we are willing to provide data that is generated in particular instructor's course to that instructor. We don't charge for it. It's anonymous, but it's open for use. As far as ERB, yes, it's important. However, because it's educational technology, we don't really test our subjects. It's something that is being used in the classroom. Therefore, all the data is collected naturally, so it doesn't, it's not an interview or testing process. It's naturally collected data through educational technology. However, the biggest concern is privacy. So we only provide data that has been anonymized sufficiently to make sure that personal data of the subject who participated is protected. So we will provide all the data that's generated, but we will make sure it's anonymized and nothing can leak a particular student's name. And I assume you don't collect any background data or anything else, like, for example, if you ever wanted to see why maybe some people provide more detailed feedback. Is it cultural? Is it professional? Is it age? Is it something else? Would you have those data to do those kinds of analyses? Mobius Leap does not collect this kind of data. So all we collect is basically the name and email address, okay? And then all the data that is generated through the social learning interactions. However, for some specific studies, this kind of data can be collected through additional questionnaires or interviews or whatnot. But again, we will have to work with that particular faculty who wants to run this study to make sure that once the data is collected, it's anonymized and de-identified. So there is a possibility to explore research questions that involve culture or demographics questions, but we will have to kind of set up it so that subjects are not at threat or at risk. There is a very interesting question from Felitas, again, University of Constance. He's asking how exactly, or do you work with Pearson, McGraw-Hill, or other publishers? And then also, do you have any textbooks somehow related or linked to Mobius Leap, or did you explore any of those kinds of relationships or partnerships?
We're actively exploring these kinds of relationships. We have been in negotiations, in constant ongoing negotiations and demonstrations with Pearson and McGraw-Hill and Wiley for the last year and a half. Okay, now those are big companies, so things don't move quickly there. Okay, so there are two kinds of partnerships we're looking for. One is basically sub-licensing our product to providers of course materials such as Pearson, McGraw-Hill, and Wiley. The other side of this is that some of those companies have branches or spin-offs that actually invest in educational technology startups. So, for example, Macmillan New Ventures is a company that we're very interested in establishing a relationship with because they form a portfolio of education technology startups, and we would be possibly, from our perspective, a good candidate. And we had initial contact, but again, it's a slow process. It takes a lot of decision making on their side to move ahead. We do have courses associated with Mobius. So basically, for example, some of our faculty customers used Mobius Leap in association with a particular textbook or case packet. So we kind of help them create a very coherent set of assignment prompts so that they can say, well, with this course packet goes this course. And we have a very interesting course management system where you can actually, once you created a course associated with a particular textbook or case packet, you can easily replicate it in the following semesters. So in this way, we make it very readily available for any mass marketing by Pearson and McGraw-Hill. Hope this answers the question.
Yep. Now, another one also from Felidas. If you establish or if you get clients in a new market, would you expect to establish a physical office there, or that wouldn't be necessary?
It depends. Okay, so if we are talking about a very highly concentrated area, right? For example, if all of a sudden every university in Massachusetts decides that they need to use Mobius Leap on a large scale, right? We absolutely will establish an office here. However, for as long as our client base is very scattered, it's sufficient for us to work virtually because most of our communications are through teleconferencing or email. And again, it's not a heavily maintainable product. It's sort of low maintenance cost product. Once you open your account and you understand how it works, faculty can craft their own courses and can work with their students almost independently. Okay, so we do provide support for as much as we need or they need, but it's not that we have to be on site to help you, to hold your hand as an instructor to help you do this.
Mm-hmm. Now, a question from Wei Meng. Would you be willing or would you consider to sell out, for example, to a publisher or external investor? So would you sell your company, and I guess if so, how much would you value it at?
Yeah, excellent question. Yes, we are for sale. Okay, it's a matter of the right price or the right offer. Okay, so as a startup, our ultimate goal is to create a company of high value and to sell it to somebody who can use it, for the benefit of their clients. So it's a matter of finding the right partner and negotiating the right price tag. But the answer is yes. As a startup, we are out for sale.
Mm-hmm. How much did it cost you to start the company?
Very interesting. Okay.
Kumar from.
Basically, registering the company is very inexpensive in the United States. And it costed us probably under $200. Okay, and we did it in the cafe on Saturday morning. So we just walked into the cafe. It had Wi-Fi. We opened an account with the online legal advisor, and we paid the fee, and we created we filled out all the forms. Our next cost was to we established the domain name. We actually have dozens of domain names that we had to register so that we can have all this covered. But actually, renting a virtual server is kind of the next major cost. It costs about $1,200 a year to rent a virtual server. So that's kind of next big thing. Once we started operating, obviously, the development came from co-founders. So basically, it's sweat capital. We didn't really pay our co-founders to have this created. But once we started attracting people for support, marketing, and sales, major fraction of our sales was directed to kind of pay their commissions. So it's commission-based negotiation or arrangement. Okay, so really to start a company, a virtual technology company, it costs at most $2,000–3,000. Okay, but once you start growing, there is a lot you have to pay, and legal cost, by the way, is very substantial too, because it's very hard. If you run a technology company, you have to protect your intellectual property, and the legal cost associated with that is high. Since we kind of spun off from the university was covering, well, helping us cover some of the legal costs, but it actually creates some debt that we have to cover once we become successful. So there is a very nice arrangement, but basically we do owe money to the lawyers.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have a few quick questions, but first, one important question that several people asked. So in the Mobius Leap Challenge, we have the ultimate real-life test of the concept. And so basically, you offered the students to go and not only tell you where the market might be and how you can promote your product in that market, but also actually try and get a contract for the product or sell the product to a university. So the question is, first, how much you're interested in that option, and second, if there is someone who is potentially interested in buying or becoming your client, how should the students, ex-culture students, go about it?
Okay.
What steps would they need to take, I guess, to make it happen and to get their post-market commission?
Yeah, if basically, if you would like to test the marketability of this product in a particular place, you need to talk to college administrators or to college faculty who might be possibly interested. And basically, if they write a letter of interest saying that, yes, and the letter of interest may be just an email, right? That they email to us and copy you saying that, yes, I've heard about this product, I'm very interested, I would like to learn more. Okay, we will offer a demo. And if they confirm that this is something they would like to move forward with, we will basically craft some sort of agreement with the team that created this lead or brought us this lead, so that they can be adequately compensated as a commission based on the real deal. So we actually do have a scheme under which external people who bring us leads can get compensated if those leads actually work out.
Materialize.
Okay, does that answer the question?
Yeah, it answers to me. I'm hoping that's satisfactory for the student. We have received a number of other questions, but most of them are repetitive or about the things that you covered earlier. There is only one more that is kind of unique in a sense. And so this student is asking, how do you balance your work and life, and was it worth starting a new company? So I assume he's interested, if he wanted to start it, I mean, is there all the time and money that needs to go into it, is it worth the investment?
Well, I guess my work life is very unbalanced. Okay, so I do try to balance it to maintain my physical and mental health, but it's, any startup is a big challenge. Okay, my biggest challenge, I guess, the biggest challenge of my life was that I started this company during my first year of my doctoral program, which, if I were to ask, would I advise anybody to start a company while they're pursuing their PhD, I would say, no, don't do this. Okay, now I'm still very happy that I've done this, because what makes your life or post-PhD meaningful is when you can take what you've learned and what you can create and help the real world solve their problems, right? So I think it's great when your research can become a practical problem solution and you make a business out of it. However, in terms of managing, your school and your personal life and startup, it's very, very different, and it's very, very difficult. Okay. On the other hand, it's also very exciting. I mean, the amount I've learned from these last 3 years is incomparable to anything I took in terms of courses from the business schools, and I have 3 master's degrees from business schools, so it's a lot. Everything becomes very practical, very real, and you have an opinion about things not because you read it in the textbook, but because you experienced it, and you touched it with your skin. So it is very, very challenging, and it's not everybody can cope with this. I've seen people quit because it was just unbearably hard. But if you're not a quitter, if you can hold on to it, hold on to your idea, hold on to your beliefs, okay, and you do not stop no matter what, then I think it's, you can succeed.
So
I say be very smart about making a choice. Do you want to finish your degree or do you want to start a company? And we've seen people like Zuckerberg and Bill Gates who went to school, started their companies, quit their school, right? Which perhaps was the right thing to do for them, considering their current status. But on the other hand, if you do want to get your degree, be very smart about whether you'll be able to handle both startup and the school.
Yeah, I guess we know so much about Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, but what we don't know is that quitting school to start a company doesn't guarantee that it will end up like Microsoft or Facebook. So probably for each Bill Gates, there are 10,000 people who did quit school and eventually no degree, no company. But
yeah.
Anyway, it seems like it was still worth it for at least our presenters, so you probably want to try it. Now, we have a number of other kind of personal questions, like, for example, how much money do you make from that business and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to ask those questions. There is one that 2 people asked. Are you married? We always get them, so I'll guess I'll
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
all right. So if you met Jones, he is married.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and I have 2 kids, the oldest of whom is going to the high school. So,
all right. So too late, I guess, but still good looking. Anyway, we are pretty much out of time. In fact, we are hugely over time, so we're going to stop here. Thank you so much. I do have a number of additional questions that I didn't ask. They were a little too specific to sometimes repetitive. I'm going to email them to you, and perhaps we can put together some sort of like a Q&A document. So if there are more questions in the future, instead of bugging you every time with the questions, we can just simply forward the document to the students. And obviously, the recording will be available online, so those who missed the presentation or joined only later, you can watch the whole thing in recording. Well, thank you so much, and yeah, thank you for your time. So
thank you for having me. Bye-bye.